Pantheon. Oh, damn. Okay, Pantheon did get banned. All right, so now...
Skarner.
Yeah, Skarner, XiaoHuanGren are kind of the ones that jump out immediately. You don't have to necessarily lock them in right away because ever since all the nerfs to Skarner multiple patches in a row, you can kind of wait to see what your composition overall needs from the rest of the draft. So Top Esports are just going to go for an old reliable Forest first pick.
Yeah, this is the first time it's been let through draft throughout this series, and again, you know, I've said it a lot on these broadcasts that we've done. I think he's easily the most consistent AD carry in the game, but worth noting, the Gwen is kind of the trade here. It's the other thing that was left up, especially with Rumble already gone. It would be a surprise to me if Hoya picked up anything else. He's played a lot of Gwen over the course of his career. We saw he could do fine on some carry-oriented champions. You know, the Aurora in Game 1 wasn't the problem for this team, and so he's going to try to give it another crack on the Gwen, but you know, Skarner, XiaoHuanGren, you highlighted it correctly. I actually really like that idea for ThunderTalk in particular because I think what we saw is that when SeTab is on something that can pressure out early in the 1v1 and when XiaoHuanGren is there to be able to kind of enable that, like that's where they're going to be at their most comfortable. So we'll see if they're going to go in that direction, but could be a lot of different things here in draft.
Yeah, I have to say that the fact that they get to lock in Gwen for themselves super early on guarantees that they can preserve counterpick for SeTab. Now, LeBlanc was the big spicy one, and Yone is the other big pick that Top Esports have continuously denied away from ThunderTalk. But if SeTab's got something else in his bag of tricks that could be really advantageous against whatever Creme does lock in for himself by the time we get to B3, B4, or even B5, if it goes that far in the draft, then, you know, ThunderTalk, I think there is a clear plan executed when SeTab is just able to best Creme in the 1v1 before we even get to the mid game.
Yeah, I really like saving Creme for as long as possible in this draft, and you know, support makes a lot of sense here with Varus already selected. You can kind of lock in your bot lane of choice, and it's going to be the Rel as the answer. Probably the priority engager left up on the board with, you know, so many things already taken off the board, specifically the Nautilus and the Alistar. I think Rel kind of falls into a lot of people's third spot, maybe even some people's second spot in terms of how that goes, but we could also see an early pick for SeTab if they just wanted to go for something like this. Corki kind of initiates a potential flex option between AD carry and mid lane if they want to do that as well, but we highlighted some more aggressive picks. We'll see if they want to play for team fights or if they want to play for dominance, and it will be the Akali as not only a takeaway from Creme, but a pretty big pick for SeTab as well.
I mean, Kman, SeTab is basically saying, Creme, you got nothing that can counterpick this Akali. I can just blind this right here, and you can't do anything about it. So they're going to try to at least take this ban phase to eliminate some options that would be a little difficult for the Akali to get a guaranteed lead on. You know, nicely identifying that the Galio could have been a tricky thing, even if the other option could be sending the Jace into the mid lane and then sending the Galio top into the Gwen. I think Galio could have functioned well into either of those. We'll see if ThunderTalk continue to ban some options that would make Akali's life difficult in the mid lane, or if there's nothing else that they fear.
Yeah, I would imagine that it's going to be something like a Sylas ban coming out. That would make a lot of sense for me. It takes away a couple of different options for Top Esports, but perhaps they could also prioritize that. They still have jungle left to pick. It's actually Lilia that's going to be the answer. Again, just taking away options for Kanavi. I think that there is this idea that perhaps Top Esports want to go for something a bit more aggressive as the answer in the mid lane, and if they want to do that, you know, Lilia kind of pairing up with it has been a very popular answer, so they're going to index into that instead. Again, they also have their Skarner available. They're basically showing that they want to push Kanavi onto Sejuani or Maokai. They don't want him playing anything that, you know, has any sort of agency in this series, and you know, same thing for Top Esports. They want to take that safety away from the Xayah in the bot lane by taking away Rakan, and could see some interesting answers. We've seen some, you know, hyper carries pop back up on the new map. I actually think hyper carries are in a much better spot in general. We see a lot of those being highlighted here by 1xN. If they wanted to go for something that could carry on the bot side, it would make sense.
I mean, for ThunderTalk, you already have Skarner as your main tank and your main front line. Who knows? You could set yourself up for like a Lulu Zeri here, and you don't necessarily worry about having a lack of a front line or someone that can dedicate themselves to be the main face checker when, you know, clearing vision for the side of ThunderTalk. Now, Top Esports going to have to find an answer or ways to lock down something slippery like a Zeri in their last 2 pickups here.
Ooh.
Nidalee being... Okay, now the question is this actually a Nidalee jungle for Kanavi, or is it a top lane Nidalee for 369? We have seen... Okay, well, with this is definitely a jungle Nidalee, because we're not seeing Tristana or Jace in the jungle, but this is really bold from the side of Top Esports, I will say.
I think bold is maybe underselling it from Top Esports here. This is greedy from Top Esports. They saw what ThunderTalk did in game number 2. They picked this super early game indexing draft, and they said, we're going to snowball the game out of control. We're going to get our mid laner in a great spot, and we're going to be able to dominate there. It's their turn on blue side to take that, but look at the comp from ThunderTalk on the other side. Look at the scaling. Like, this late game is a disaster for Top Esports if it ends up going neutral even a little bit. So much setup coming in. I think the Lulu rounds out this comp incredibly well. So much damage and, quite frankly, so much pick potential from ThunderTalk as well to be able to answer the pick potential of Top Esports. The TES are very much on a clock in this one. If they don't get out to a pretty early lead, I'm going to really start to get concerned for them.
Yeah, because it's not like you can build tank Jace anymore. They've clearly put a nerf dent into that build for multiple patches now. You can still go like bruiser build Jace, but still, it goes to show that your front line is really limited. And for something like Zeri, that is a paradise. It's a bunch of squishy targets that don't have guaranteed lockdown on top of you. Since there's no Maokai in this game and things like Vi and Nautilus were already used in the Fearless draft, this is 1xN's game to completely take over if the game stalls out and scales long enough for ThunderTalk. I will say, as you already pointed out, Top Esports, they're basically saying, we're going to blitz you in the early game, and we're going to end the game before you even get a chance to come online.
This leaves no room for Kanavi errors. Like, if we're looking at game number 2 and seeing the Talon just kind of make some mistakes in the early game, get behind in tempo, that cannot happen in this game. If you are Top Esports, you need to avoid those at all costs. The positive, I think you're looking at 3 winning lanes, but if you don't pressure those 3 winning lanes, do they even exist in the first place? So, excited to get into game 3.
Dude, the ThunderTalk dude is so hyped right now. Off of that game 2 win, I think he was ready to just bring more followers and bring more fans into the ThunderTalk cult, and I can't blame him. That must have been absolutely euphoric to watch the game 2 performance. But as we've talked about it before, Top Esports have a very, very tall task ahead of them with this early game composition. The fact that they had such an abysmal game 2 against ThunderTalk, who is currently 10th in the standings of Group Ascend. Instead of Top Esports, you know, dropping the ego and saying, okay, you know what, let's just go for some simple to execute champions, you know, a simpler to execute composition, they're doubling down and saying, you know what, we're better than these guys. And the game 2 was a fluke, and we're going to prove it to you exactly why by being able to kind of style on you with the composition that we've drafted.
That's definitely the goal coming in from Top Esports. We'll see if they're going to be able to execute on it. Again, it leaves very little margin for error if you do want to play for that. I know that there are probably going to be some people out there that look at me saying that there's no late game for Top Esports and point to Tristana Varus being really scary in the back half of the game, especially if Nidalee is landing spears. My biggest concern there is we see Feather actually getting engaged upon, some sums being dropped. But it doesn't look like much after that. Just the Ignite coming out and the heal for Feather. But my concern is, yes, like Varus and Tristana scale well. Are you telling me Varus Tristana is going to be better in the back half of the game than Akali and Zeri? I just don't really believe that. That's where Top Esports really need to get going in the early game for them to really have any shot in the late game. And that's going to be on their individual differences.
Oh, Kanavi's going for an early 3-camp clear into gank on bot side. Crispin set up the spear with a Q flash stun. He's not quite in range. 1xN forced to backpedal to the side, and that brings Crispin range, but it's flash for flash on the 80 carry.
Yeah, it's a good look there from Kanavi. We talked about it extensively. We need to be looking in the early game here. There is almost nothing on this team that ends up outscaling, and specifically in the bot lane, if you can get that Zeri behind even a little bit, that's a huge positive. Burning the flash early is great. Feather also using flash as well, so No summoners, or I guess only cleanse available for 1xn down on the bot side at the current moment. But the problem is, if you're going to go for those plays and not get any sort of, actual gold out of it, then, things are going to start stacking up pretty quick for ThunderTalk. So definitely need to see them keep their foot on the gas. You can't just go for a play, burn the flashes, and then go back to farming. I need to see Kanavi stay hungry.
Yeah, so the immediate trade-off is that XiaoHuanGren is the first one to get to level 4 on this jungle matchup. Kanavi still has to clear out all of his topside camps before feeling comfortable about challenging Skarner directly, but the fact that XiaoHuanGren is going to use his pressure to target Creme instead, he saw Kanavi look for the top crab. He's just going to guarantee that he'll get the bottom crab, allow himself to either reset immediately or maybe cheat tempo a little bit and go for a quick hover on this bot side since JackeyLove is currently getting shoved in by this large minion wave. And XiaoHuanGren is actually going to probably drop a ward here or look for them the repeat gank by going through the wall instead as, okay, a little bit early. Nice attempts there, but not going to find anything on the Creme.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of a time waste for XiaoHuanGren, but not really a time waste for him. I think my thing with Skarner is I just don't really like his ability to actually pressure out any of these lanes right now. For ThunderTalk, if you are going to run into trouble, it's because you're going to be trying to look for plays when there aren't any to find on the map right now. Perhaps you can try and take advantage of this bot lane being pushed in, but with JackeyLove at level 4, it's going to be a bit more difficult to actually do that. Hoya also shoved in on the top side here, so not really a lot to capitalize on if you are ThunderTalk in this game, but if the onus is on top esports and we're looking at a situation where, yeah, you've got a little bit of a lead, but, we're staying mostly neutral in these laning phases and, using our cooldowns effectively to make sure that we're not overextending, then, that's definitely going to be in their favor. But Dragon up in 8 seconds. We'll see where the bot lane pressure wants to go. Both junglers currently on the bot side. Maybe not for long, though.
So with the way that the camps have stalled out for Kanavi, it's going to be another minute before his topside camps start to spawn again. So Kanavi could look for another repeat visit on the bot side. I don't know if he's going to actually go for it. And with the control ward that was dropped right behind that red buff wall, Kanavi is spotted in this area. XiaoHuanGren is actually just going to look for Creme once again. I mean, you can try, but Creme is a little hard to lock down when he is playing something like the Tristana. But XiaoHuanGren revealing himself, channeling and beelining towards the top side of the map, this actually opens up an opportunity for top esports to get the first dragon of the game.
Yeah, and we actually see a full engage here coming in from 369. He just has so much damage to this Gwen. This is why the Jace matchup is so positive. But I do want to say this is clearly just an admission of, okay, we're, Skarner and we're Akali and our bot lane is Zeri, Lulu. Like, why would we contest first Drake? Why do we need to try and risk anything like that? You can have it. You can have Cloud Dragon and we'll try to play for everything else. It's really Grubs in 2 minutes that I think is going to be the first major objective that ThunderTalk is probably going to want to try and at least look for, but at least for now, it makes a lot of sense. They're playing towards their own win condition, which does not involve needing to risk the game this early.
Yeah. SeTab getting aggressive onto Creme. Another rocket jump. Dude, if I was Creme, I would start flashing, like, the tent emote, and just really let the jungler know, it's like, hey, man, you want to just, stay here for a while? Do you want me to not have fun this game? As XiaoHuanGren just recognizing the only lane that he can really effectively pressure or help alleviate pressure is just constantly burning that rocket jump so that SeTab gets a little bit more safety and walking up and challenging the wave.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's XiaoHuanGren making his way, to either the top or the bot side and saying, well, I can get rocket jump on the way so that we can't have any aggression coming in from the Akali. You don't really need to play for the anonymity right now, but Kanavi is going to be here on the top side first. Grub's still not spawning for another minute, but Kanavi and SeTab sitting here. SeTab's level 6.
Kanavi is at least, getting some decent damage onto him. SeTab doesn't want to have to force to use the ultimate. Oh, Kanavi's now in trouble. Flash away. Perfect execution. SeTab picks up first blood, but at least Creme equalizes it 1-1.
Yeah, still a very good trade for SeTab, all things considered. Getting that first blood on the Akali, getting some gold rolling. If you can trade 1-for-1 this early on in the game, especially if you're going to be able to get it on that Akali, it's ginormous for ThunderTalk. It's nice to be able to pull the kill back, but Kanavi's going to be pretty down in tempo after that. He's going to have to make his way down to the bottom side of the map, whereas XiaoHuanGren and especially 1xn and Feather can really start to establish pressure up top here.
And because Kanavi has all these camps that he wants to take first before looking anywhere near the top side, Grubs is spawning in the next 10 seconds. XiaoHuanGren is already beelining towards that area, picks up the Raptor camp, should easily be able to get this Grub spawn as well. No one on the side of top esports is really in position to challenge by being able to set up a wave. in priority for that objective. So I think this is ThunderTalk once again being able to make a strong objective move on the map here.
Yeah, and if they're able to get these grubs with the comp that they have, that's pretty massive. It just opens up a couple of doors for both Hoya and SeTab in the back half of the game, especially with their pick potential, and it looks like they're going to be relatively free, although Top Esports looking to contest.
Wait a minute. It's Chris engaging, and now XiaoHuanGren in trouble, flashing backwards into the pit. Creme using the jump to distance himself away. SeTab doesn't have perfect execution quite yet. Good stun by Chris, but Hoya is able to stamp him down to size, and Chris will go down in the end. I think that still ends up being 3 grubs for the side of ThunderTalk. Top Esports were not able to prevent any of it, and the fact that they don't even get a kill off the back and still lose Crisp in the end, Kman, I'm getting nervous on the prospect of Top Esports trying to blitz through this early game.
I think you should be getting more than nervous. That's a very bad play for Top Esports. That puts them in a pretty rough position, not only because we talked about them needing to blitz the early game, but because that's such a questionable decision. Like, there's no excuses for going in there after you had been out-tempoed. There's no way to really be able to actively contest, and Crisp just goes in and dies. So very weird play there overall from TES, and once again, it's just giving free gold over. It's going on to the Gwen, which is really nice to help her get back into this laning phase, which has been dominated by 369, but now we're looking at Dragon spawning in 1 minute, and while Top Esports grabbed the first one, it's getting closer and closer to ThunderTalk being able to consistently pressure out some of these fights in the mid game, because that big early power spike, that pre-6 power spike of Top Esports is disintegrated here. Oh,
now
Creme?
is Creme in a position where he's actually threatened by SeTab. Nice electrocute proc off of the double shurikens there, but Creme still being able to control the wave for now. Next objective is spawning in 47 seconds. It is the second dragon of the game. Top Esports, as a reminder, was the first team to pick up the first dragon so far. But right now, Top Esports are going to have to do a lot in order to establish control. And as you already talked about, Kman, first item spikes are starting to come up here, and it looks like it's going to be a majority of ThunderTalk members getting there first over Top Esports, which is not great for the side of this early game-oriented composition.
It's really not. It is really not great for Top Esports. Again, I don't want it to seem like they cannot win the game if this goes beyond 20 minutes. That feels a little bit hyperbolic, but they definitely need to start playing a little bit more as if they have the lead here. If you can start forcing some of these fights, that might be their way to get some gold back into their pockets and to start completing some important item breakpoints. But Dragon spawning now, as we see it come up, it is going to be that Chem Dragon, and 369 going to pressure out Hoya to really establish as much tempo as possible there. We'll see how much ThunderTalk want to try to contest this, but JackeyLove's alone!
Oh, Flash already used, still has a barrier if he needs it, but now that is a Varus without one of his summoner spells. XiaoHuanGren now starting to lurch on forward using the Ishtal Impact, doesn't find anyone in range, will not pop the Impale. The rest of ThunderTalk just maintaining pressure. That is 1xSen's ultimate already being used just to establish pressure. But now teleport is coming in from Creme. 369 also has the first move as he got the wave shoved in against Hoya. Hoya's going to try to cut him off and at least try to mark him as well. Needlework. Oh, 369 is going to get clipped here. It was a teleport from SeTab on the bottom side of the map, but JackeyLove secures the second dragon of the game, but SeTab does away 369, and now the rest of Top Esports have to be careful because it is effectively a 4v5. SeTab looking forward, already used the perfect execution. I don't think there's going to be any more engages as a quick buster shot to the face ensures that Top Esports all get out alive.
Yeah, really not a bad fight for Top Esports, but a teleport that looked like it was going to be a bit of a disaster at the start with SeTab being so far behind the play ends up being miraculous for them as they're able to cut off the flank coming in from 369. Great job by SeTab to be able to pick that up, but overall, it's yet another influx of gold going in favor of ThunderTalk. Yes, you're stacking dragons on the side of Top Esports, but these fights do not get easier the further you go along in the game, especially with the Akali being the one to pick up a lot of the gold here. You can see it's a pretty decent setup, all things considered, and you know, it's kind of miraculous that JackeyLove can step up so far with no flash and no ultimate, but, you know, it's a really great CC chain coming in overall from Top Esports to at least establish themselves in this fight. XiaoHuanGren cannot die. The Impale ends up being super impactful, and then once 369 is down, a lot of the damage is gone. That 4v5 ends up coming in. You're absolutely right. Not much to do there, but looking forward into the future, 2 minutes on Rift Herald, that's really going to be the next big major objective that Top Esports can try to force, but again, it's getting scarier and scarier to try to get these 5v5s.
Yeah, and shout out to Crisp, who was able to save Creme's life by stalling as much time as he could with that Magnastorm upon the Impale engage. However, Creme starting to get a little concerned that he can no longer fight SeTab in the 1v1. XiaoHuanGren looking, gets the Ishtal impact into the wall, and the quick rocket jump away at least keeps this Tristana alive for now, as Crisp can stand in between the giant Scorpion and the small Yordle. But ThunderTalk moving forces now to overload on the bottom side of the map. This tier 1 could be the next big target here, as XiaoHuanGren gets stunned up by Crisp.
Oh, we missed
the flash from the Impale, trying to jump away from SeTab. Quick buster shot. Creme is trying to play this one out strong, but XiaoHuanGren flashes and smacks him in the mouth. ThunderTalk all escape. Now Crisp is trying to lock down SeTab. Spear lands. Kanavi flashing forward, but he just doesn't do enough damage. There's no way that SeTab should have lived there, but the wild growth and the level advantage keeps him alive. Crisp Q flash looking for XiaoHuanGren, but he looks over the wall and escapes with the Ishtal impact. And now JackeyLove is being called to the fray, trying to slow him down. Chain of Corruption's right on top of the Skarner, gets the knockup and the flip from Crisp. One more auto attack, and it's the hail of arrows. And JackeyLove at least gets something back for top esports.
Ooh, that almost was really, really bad for TES. If they weren't able to pull back that kill at the end, it would have been disaster, but JackeyLove able to make his way down and make that play worth it. It's just perfect execution, pun entirely intended, coming in from ThunderTalk, and you just have to give them so much credit. We talked about top esports really indexing heavily into the fact that they think they're the better team in this draft, and you know what? ThunderTalk's execution has been better across the last 2 games of this series. You gotta give them every bit of credit that they deserve in that regard, but it's not over just yet. As much as we're talking about this being in favor of ThunderTalk, this is basically a gold neutrality at 15 minutes into the game here, and with Rift Herald spawning, it's still anybody's to be able to grab.
Yeah, and the emphasis comes from the fact that the later the game goes on, the more dire it is for top esports to have the gold lead. Because if they do not have the gold lead, and it's, 20 plus minutes into the game, ThunderTalk's composition is favored from an even state game. But top esports, if they're able to, within these next couple of fights, it is an Infernal Soul on the map as well, so that's actually pretty nice RNG to land for such a diverse carry composition from top esports. You essentially have 4 carries on this comp, right? So Infernal Soul, if you're able to secure that for yourselves, it's one way that you can at least still be able to outmatch ThunderTalk as a quick Impale. Oh, Chris could be in trouble here, but he's really tanking on the rel. And that actually feels pretty nice for top esports. That's a big ultimate gone for ThunderTalk that doesn't really net in any value for them. They're trying to knock out this tier 1 in the mid lane, but they got the Rift Herald on the side of top esports, and Creme will answer. Is he going to take the 1v1 against SeTab? That's very bold. He just has to clear the minion wave, but now he might be a little too low to stay around for another one.
Yeah, Herald immediately getting dropped here on the top side. Top esports going to try to pick up as much as they can here because they understand how much pressure is being put on the bot side by ThunderTalk here. There's no way for them to be able to match. They're going to try to get that charge into tier 2 as well, and we actually see pings going down. Hoya could be in trouble on the top side here if they want to stay. Doesn't look like it for now. Hoya just going to play a little bit patiently, but overall, it's a good play for top esports. These are the kinds of things they need to do in order to pull some momentum back in this game. Not really sure why ThunderTalk felt so apprehensive to pull the trigger there. I'd have to go back and check and see if SeTab had teleport available, because he was split pushing on the bottom side of the map. Maybe he did not have it available, and then you could just look at a situation where it's like, okay, well, maybe we don't want to fight without the Akali that has all of our gold, and I can definitely understand that, but because they ended up putting so much into the Rift Herald, it's ThunderTalk now who's starting up on the Dragon, and that's been the big priority for TES. They've been stacking these.
Kanavi's in the area, so is Chris. They get vision on it, but it seems a little too scary to just brute force their way back in. And it definitely seems like ThunderTalk will get it for free, but they're trying to stall them on the way back into the tier 1 so they can look for extra damage. Oh, that's a lot of damage from 369's Jace there. And we haven't gotten a chance to talk or touch upon it, Kman. Even though 369 did die in the flank from SeTab's teleport in one of the last fights that we saw a few minutes ago, he's been dominating Hoya on the Gwen in this side lane matchup. He's nearly 40 CS above. He's been hovering around 1,000 gold advantage just solo without really any assistance. And that is considering the fact that Hoya has a kill and an assist on top of 369's death.
Yeah, I mean, we could have expected this in terms of the players in this matchup. 369 definitely a little bit more proficient, but this is the benefit of the Jace matchup. It's why you pick it into Gwen, is because early on it becomes so simple to be able to fight it out, especially if you build any MR with the Hex Drinker completed for the Jace. It's really easy for him to take a lot of these trades, but those trades aren't going to get easier as the game continues to go along. Jace is going to start losing tempo and losing pressure, whereas the Gwen is going to start becoming even more of a nuisance, and especially even in the side lane, it's going to become harder and harder, even with the gold lead, for 369 to have the same kind of tempo. And so you have to utilize this power spike that's coming in right about now in order to make the most of this Jace matchup. It doesn't look like they want to try and take advantage of Hoya too much, but credit to Hoya. He's done a really good job of understanding that he is the weak side of the map right now, and he's not really made any mistakes that have opened up the door for Top Esports to be able to capitalize.
I will say, Top Esports, much, agreeing to what you wanted to see from them, at least understanding how powerful this Jace can be early compared to the Gwen. They've been shifting 369 around the map a lot. You saw how he was shifted to mid lane, chunked out 1xN on the first wave, then helped crash the second wave and took out the tier 1 turret. However, 369, he has a feeling. he knew something was amiss. He walked up to that bush and he said, something doesn't feel right. You get the shiver down your spine when you're walking into the forest and you're just like, you know what, I'm gonna go back home. I will not go out today.
The spidey senses were tingling there, for sure, for 369, but he gets himself out of there, no major mistakes. Kanavi's going to make his way up to the top side now. When you look at objectives, Otacon is the next major one in 30 seconds that will be spawning on the bottom side of the map, and so Kanavi putting all of this pressure down onto the top side isn't really going to do too much. It looks like it is going to be XiaoHuanGren that's going to be establishing pressure there first. He is going to be backing, though. It's all really just about getting that vision control, but we'll see. We will see what both of these teams want to do here. Overall, I definitely favor ThunderTalk now in team fights. I think we're starting to hit the part of the game where it's like, okay, you had your opportunity to be able to start getting some gold overall on Top Esports, on Creme, on JackeyLove, and while they have some, if this Akali gets one major shutdown in a fight, it's kind of over for Top Esports. So you need to play this about as clean as you can. But keep rolling on here. SeTab gonna be just catching the bot wave here, trying to shove it in as much as possible. I want to see what XiaoHuanGren exactly does here. If he wants to step up and actually control where a lot of the vision ends up dropping. The crab obviously helps a ton in that regard, but it doesn't look like either team want to try and run the game down. 369 though, potentially caught.
Hoya is starting to win the 1v1, and as you alluded to, Mr. Kman, we're starting to hit the break point where Jace doesn't just brute force his way through the matchup anymore.
Yeah, the problem here for 369 is that this really is just like a numbers difference. Eventually, it will get to the point where Gwen is just going to do more damage, and that is a problem for a champion whose primary goal is to do damage. Can't really survive a ton in the side lane without it, so we will see how they want to play it out. Ping's coming down, but again, it's all really going to be about who can get there first. Teleport actually coming in on the top side for 369. That's that resource, that cooldown actually used for the Jace, and so he will not be able to join this Otacon fight, and they're going to start it because of that.
I don't know how I feel about this for the side of Top Esports. This is teleport now being expended by Hoya, and 369 is forced to walk to the bottom side of the map, so he's going to be very late for this play. I think the only thing that he can do is just push in mid wave and maybe threaten tier 2 in the mid lane.
Ooh, the Impale
goes wide. Wait a minute, Magnus Sword from Chris, 3-man stun. Creme is about to come in. XiaoHuanGren is super low. Kanavi steals the Otacon, and here comes 369. It's disaster for ThunderTalk Gaming. 1xN trying to fight for his life on this one. SeTab doesn't get the assassination on Creme in the backline. 1xN still pumping up the damage with the zap, 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 but it's not working. This Sari is not finding any kills for himself, and somehow Top Esports have outplayed ThunderTalk at the most crucial fight in the game. We were doubting them, we were concerned, but Top Esports showed that they are just damn straight better.
Oh my god, Raafaa, I am feeling some feelings right now for Top Esports. I have no idea what just happened for ThunderTalk. That was the perfect setup for them. You have 369 blowing teleport on the top side of the map. It's a 4v5 once Hoya teleports in, but they lose so much health posturing around Otacon that they actually can't fight. The moment that XiaoHuanGren ends up missing that Impale, it lands on no one. This fight is over. You can see it there. Crisp with a gorgeous ultimate from the Rel locks everybody down, and wow, 1xN wants to try and take over this fight. It's so difficult. Kanavi just gorgeous getting in there and pulling off the steal. We criticize the Nidalee pick, but staying relevant in the back half of the game is Kanavi's forte. And at this point, it's just a little bit difficult to overplay these health bars. Hoya unfortunately getting caught out on a ward. It looked like he could potentially try and play for the backline there, but is seen, and then from that point onwards, Kanavi is very easily going to be able to clean up a game that looked like it was in ThunderTalk's hands, where they were going to control the tempo. It is flipped entirely in the other direction. It's Top Esports to lose.
Yep, and Top Esports have found the advantage at just the right time. Even though they were not able to get one of the third dragon of the game, you know, almost 10 minutes ago, or a few minutes ago, Top Esports now are on soul points as they have effectively picked up the fourth dragon of the game after securing the Otacon right under the noses of ThunderTalk Gaming. And we still give a little bit of an edge to ThunderTalk in terms of, hey, this is still a composition that can work in the late game, but they were in such a damn good position to win that fight, and the fact that Top Esports pretty much outplayed in every possible variable that was going on in that fight is like the worst case scenario for ThunderTalk. And now Top Esports, as you said, they're gonna use this advantage to get control of mid wave. Baron not spawning for another 44 seconds. So you have to imagine that is going to be the next play on the docket list for Top Esports.
We'll see if Top Esports want to put a ton onto the Baron and on the top side of the map here in general, because in 3 minutes, it's Soul for Top Esports. Infernal Soul, nonetheless. And so you want to make sure you're in a position to be able to contest for that. Maybe they want to try and stall the game out to, you know, worry a bit more about that dragon. We've seen teams, especially on Soul Point, really want to go for it. But if they do want to make a play on the Baron, they need to make sure that they keep vision out of the area, which they're doing now. XiaoHuanGren looking for a miracle play. He's not going to find it.
Trying to flash on top of Crisp, I guess, but here comes SeTab with a flank, going through all members, but Crisp is able to buy some time. Kanavi falls thanks to the assassination of SeTab, and now ThunderTalk have guaranteed there's no smite available on the side of Top Esports for the next 40 seconds.
The problem is, I'm just not sure they get much more out of it other than just a kill onto SeTab, which, don't get me wrong, is important. They get the mid-tier 1 as well, which is really nice, but when you look at the map state, they certainly can't even attempt to try and contest Baron, and taking Smite off the Rift, it might not even been, you know, a priority for Top Esports to try and go after that Baron, as we talked about before. It might just delay them a little bit. Still some nice gold to go into the pocket of SeTab, and if they can continue to find flanks like that where the Akali can find the backline more effortlessly, or even Hoya can get onto the backline more effortlessly, that's their avenue to get back into this game, because for as much gold as, you know, Varus or Nidalee or Tristana end up having in the back half here, if they're getting shut down early on in the fight, it's kind of doomed for them. So still overall looking at, you know, ThunderTalk to be able to create their own advantages and to fight on their terms.
369 has a chance to get the jump on Hoya first here. Needlework should be available. Actually, it's not available for another 8 seconds. 369 just gets the solo kill straight up. Hoya was not able to find where 369 was when he thought it was safe enough to just take that wave. That creates an opportunity, a window on the map now for the next 40 seconds, and it just might be Top Esports looking to pull the trigger.
That's a huge mistake by Hoya. I think he assumes he's like, oh, I can win this. And he's right. He wins this if he has ultimate, but he doesn't have ult up. And so it doesn't end up being in his favor. He gets solo killed down on the bot side. See if Top Esports want to try and force it. But again, it's going to be really difficult to capitalize on this. Hoya up in 15 seconds with teleport. 369 on the bottom side of the map. There's just no way to really do anything off of that pick. So again, still nice to go in favor of 369. He picks up his first kill of the entire game. But it's now Dragon spawning in 45 seconds, which is Soul for Top Esports that I imagine will be the priority for these two teams. And that's why I think Kanavi's getting his back off now.
And I will say the one thing that brings a huge smile to my face is the amount of Serpent's Fangs I'm seeing built this game. Not just for the Varus, but also the Jace. Because you have to deal with things like 1xN getting shields from Bloodthirster, as well as, you know, Feather's whole kit with the help picks. I'm trying to think if there's... I guess there's also the shield from XiaoHuanGren popping the W, as well as the Jungle Pet. But, you know... Serpent's Fang value, baby. I love it. I'll keep peddling that item. Dragon Soul for Top Esports coming up in the next 5 seconds. Big chunk onto 1xN. Wild Growth already expended as well. This Zeri is not going to feel that comfortable trying to play for this fight. I think this is just Infernal Soul straight up given over to Top Esports.
That is a horrible mistake from ThunderTalk. Their bot lane just overextending, Creme doing a great job to essentially flank the bot lane, get so much damage off, and burn every resource. They can't contest without that Zeri Lulu. They just can't. There's no way for them to be able to fight that out. They try and exchange by establishing pressure on the top side, but they can't exactly start this Baron. If they do, I'd be stunned.
Because 369 can just pressure on the bottom side of the map. I mean, Top Esports, they're going to be forced to challenge, yes, but 369 is actually going to join the fray and make sure that it's a 5-on-5, the strongest possible setup for Top Esports. SeTab, once again, waiting in the shadows, trying to see if he can get a flank, but Feather is almost low. SeTab reveals himself, but the rest of Top Esports now trying to tunnel back in. JackeyLove under fire, the perfect execution finds its mark. SeTab goes golden, but Creme is still alive! And if he can't take out both of the carries, then Top Esports can still play this one out. Looks like ThunderTalk. Wait, they didn't even get the Baron? Did Top Esports steal it? Oh my god, no way! ThunderTalk just cannot catch a break!
Oh, it just goes from bad to worse, and the fight might not even be over. We're still posturing around red buff here because Top Esports don't want to let this go. They have the Baron, though. You're good, man. You can escape. I want to see a replay on that. I was floored when I saw that Kanavi took the Baron. There should have been no way for him to get into that pit. We were also preoccupied with SeTab on the flank, and he does a great job getting on JackeyLove here, the one priority target that you need to put out. But Kanavi's just dancing in the pit by himself, and they're not able to burst him down. It's just smited too early by XiaoHuanGren. And unfortunately, Kanavi's going to be able to get that. It's a huge misplay from the ThunderTalk jungler, smiting way too early, but clearly just a miscommunication overall, and that's huge for Top Esports because even if they're not able to perfectly win the fight, they still definitely come out on top, and you can see it's still plus 1,000 in terms of the Baron power play since they were able to take it, so
yeah,
an opportunity down the drain.
Yeah, that seems so strange too from ThunderTalk. It's not even like Kanavi was, you know, had to work that hard to stay in the pit. You called it. He was dancing in the pit. You had Impale. You had all these tools that could have tried and, like, forced Kanavi to flash away before trying to recommit with a pounce and at least be focused down. But the fact that ThunderTalk said, yeah, we'll flip it, and then they lost the flip. I don't know what else to say. That's...
It's not good. It's not good, Raafaa. I think that's the fair thing to say. We talked, you know, earlier today about how we wanted to see ThunderTalk have a good understanding of where they want to be and how they want to play out these late games. I'm not seeing that. I'm going to be completely honest. I am seeing a team that is really struggling to understand what exactly they want to be and where they want to, you know, put their pressure. SeTab, Hoya diving the backline. Meanwhile, the Baron is completely free to take. There's no CC coming down on the enemy jungler. Perhaps 369 could find something, but the alcove coming in clutch here, as we are going to see the bat come in from Hoya. Overall, still a push coming in from Top Esports, but especially with that mid inhibitor already down, it's going to be difficult to defend against this push if you're ThunderTalk.
Yeah, I just can't help but imagine that all spirits, all momentum broke as soon as the Otacon fight went so haywire for ThunderTalk. Because now
XiaoHuanGren.
It's XiaoHuanGren running for his life. He did burn the flash and he dodges the chain of corruptions, but he's not going to get a chance to re-engage this fight unless he is ready to die on the front lines for his comrades, because that is going to be a one-way trip. Teleport is coming in. XiaoHuanGren rejoins the fray, but they're all going to jump onto SeTab. He's going to pop the golden mark of that Zhonya's, but he still gets popped like a balloon. 369 going to get wrapped up here. It's actually Kanavi, or Crisp, I should say, but XiaoHuanGren Impale only onto a support, not that great of a value there on the ultimate, and ThunderTalk now without a front line, without an assassin, are down to 3 members left, and Top Esports say, screw the top side, we're just gonna go straight for the base and end this series. The first Nexus Tower falls, and all the members of ThunderTalk are starting to pop in the backline. Buster Shot is gonna push 1XM back into the fountain, and Top Esports will do away ThunderTalk and lock them into 10th place. GG, well played for Top Esports.
You know, I was getting a little worried there, Raafaa. I was getting a little concerned a bit of a ways into this game, but leave it to Top Esports and leave it to the player we were asking the most out of in Kanavi to make some gigantic plays down the stretch here. He ends up playing beautifully in the Otacon fight, ends up securing that objective for his team, and then the Baron steal that really ends up accentuating that gigantic lead that Top Esports had formed. awesome stuff coming in from a team that we didn't think was going to be able to win some of these late game team fights. Well, they proved us wrong. They had lost a lot of pressure and they came out on top anyways.
Yeah, like on the one hand, this is what top esports need to show if they're going to continue being the first place team in Group Ascend and for LPL going into playoffs, right? But thank God that Kanavi can bounce back after what was that Talon game too, right? And he does go back to comfort. Nidalee has been a staple for this guy for years, right? I think during Kanavi's peak in 2023 with JDG, he was renowned as one of the best Nidalee players in the entire world, probably only matched by Canyon at the time. So, when you pull out the Nidalee, I know more than anyone, being the Nidalee aficionado and the big enthusiast, you have a limited window where you could be the strongest champion on the Rift. That window already went away very early on when Kanavi went down to SeTab Sakali, right? So afterwards, the only thing you can do is just be kind of an enchanter kitten, right? You're going to buff up your 2 double marksmen, try to give them attack speed steroids, give everyone heals. And the fact that Kanavi is able to pull out not 1, but 2 clutch objective steals for his team, I don't care what happened in the early game anymore. You made up for it.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. Made up for it and then some. I'm not going to say he individually won them this game. That would take away from the accomplishments of some other players, but he was the reason that they pulled this game back in terms of just the main plays that ended up being made, and to do that on something like Nidalee is exceptional. I do want to quickly touch upon ThunderTalk because I think it's just one of those like gut-wrenching losses where you had it in the palm of your hands. This would have been a gigantic win just in terms of confidence, in terms of their ability to build towards something, because we knew like they were locked into one of the bottom spots no matter what, but this loss officially locks them in as being the worst team in Group Ascend in terms of their record, and to kind of have that in the palm of their hands, to feel like you have the scaling and to not be able to come away with it, it's got to feel at least a little disappointing for them.
Yeah. ThunderTalk, I will say that people cannot disrespect SeTab's LeBlanc, because that at least guarantees, one particular matchup that SeTab was able to just run away with the game on. But, I think there's a lot of other variables that helped contribute in making sure that the LeBlanc snowball was not the only thing, lifting ThunderTalk across the finish line. Obviously you pointed out that 1xn's Lucian opened up and freed to make big plays once the tier 1 was gone. But when you look at how this game 3 played out, a similar architect of or a design and blueprint was in motion. SeTab getting the Akali, he blinded it into whatever Creme wanted, and he went for the Tristana. That's going to be a rough matchup no matter what champion you're playing, since Tristana just tends to have the advantage against a lot of melee champions like that. I liked what XiaoHuanGren was doing. It looked goofy at first, and I didn't understand it, and the first couple of times, but over time I realized, okay, you're trying to ensure that Tristana doesn't have rocket jump, as much as often, so that SeTab can get, at least a free of a lane as possible. And then we got to the point where SeTab was actually starting to threaten Creme in the side lane, where he needed help, pushing out the lanes. And the fact that SeTab was not like turbo accelerated like he was in the LeBlanc game, Creme did at least an admirable job of not falling behind like he did in game 2, right? But all the pieces were there, Kman. It just came down to the Otacon fight. Oh.
And I know it's unfair to point to one specific play, but I think XiaoHuanGren missing the Impale in that Otacon fight just immediately turns so much. But you're right, like, the big difference for me this game is not SeTab playing worse. I actually think he played just about as well as he did in the LeBlanc game in terms of the plays he was creating and the things he was going for. Creme was just significantly more in this game. Like, the Azir was completely out of game number 2. There was no resistance coming in, which meant that the LeBlanc could snowball even harder. And once you're at 40 CS and 3 kills, it becomes pretty difficult for what is essentially the win condition in the Azir to be able to function. In this one, Creme, while he might not have been perfect in the early game, certainly wasn't disastrous, and this Tristana stayed relevant throughout the rest of the game, which is a huge difference maker, and that's definitely something that I think really kind of contributed to the win here.
Yeah. It goes to show that, when we start to understand top esports and their losses, Kanavi tends to be, the pivot point of, if he's not doing well, then oh, there's a chance the top esports are starting to fall apart. But then it just comes down to, okay, but is Creme or 369 also falling apart? And even though 369 died once, he was still massively ahead of Hoya in the side lane. So at least 369 was stable. And Creme, even though his lane got fed, he got a kill for himself as well. And he was staying relevant, as you pointed out. So the fact that neither of the side laners fell in conjunction with Kanavi starting to, fall behind against the Skarner, it ensured that top esports were still in a playable spot. And, they clutched up when they needed to.
That's all they need to do, right? They just need to make sure that they can express how good they are in the later half of the game, because this team is ridiculous. And we know they're ridiculous. We know they're incredibly talented. You can look top to bottom on this roster and talk about some of the most mechanically talented players in the entire world. Sometimes they get in their own way, and sometimes they get into a position where they're not allowed to showcase that. I'm glad we got to see a lot of that here today, but it's actually Crisp who's going to be picking up the MVP here on the Rel, really frontlining a lot of these fights and eating a ton of CC for the team.
I mean, I think the game-winning play was him identifying, oh god, Skarner just used Impale and whiffed. I'm going in, baby. That's my time to shine. And that big engage caused so much chaos, because you can imagine the breakdown in communication from ThunderTalk's side where you hear your Skarner ulti whiff, and you're like, oh shoot, I don't have ulti anymore. And then suddenly, Rel's on top of us. Oh, what do we do, guys? And then, yeah, mass pandemonium occurs. But that is the end of our first series, y'all. Top Esports do take it away 2-1 against ThunderTalk Gaming. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, it's our second series and our final series in the night.